What if I told you that the secret to becoming irresistible is learning to let go? The more that you're constantly chasing, the more you repel other people. But when you learn to be more indifferent, independent of the outcome, then you learn to become more irresistible, more magnetic, because there's not a sense of neediness that's coming from you. It's a bit of a paradox. The more you chase something, the more you scare it away. The less you pursue something, the more you're attracted. In this video, I'm gonna be covering why that is and how you can avoid the mistake of repelling things by chasing things too hard. Here's why it happens. When you're constantly pursuing and chasing, and you're always putting the needs of other people, of that other person that you're pursuing, ahead of your own, what you're communicating subconsciously is insecurity. And that is an unattractive trait, being insecure. To use dating as an example, a lot of these nice guys, what they're doing is they're constantly putting the needs of their date of other people ahead of themselves. And that's why they're so unattractive. They're afraid of making the other person upset or doing something that they wouldn't like. And that's another thing that they're also communicating is fear. Fear of being not liked. And that itself is something that makes it so some people aren't gonna feel all that connected to you. Another example as well is if you're always available for this other person, what that communicates is that you don't have much going on in your life. The fact that you're always available, you're never busy, you're always able to make time for this person. It might work in the beginning of the relationship, but over time, if you're always there, always available, they're gonna start to wonder, wow, do you really have nothing else going on? That's where the whole thing of playing hard to get comes in. People who are unavailable, they don't respond quick, they take their time, they're always busy with something. You're gonna find yourself chasing those people more than the people who are always available. That's just the law of the universe. Another thing as well is when you're constantly busy and you're not responding quickly to text, what you're also communicating subconsciously is that you actually have things going on in your life and that you're secure and you don't need other people. You don't need that other person. And showing that you don't have that neediness, that in and of itself is magnetic to people because it shows that you're more of a complete person that doesn't have a huge void. Don't get me wrong, you do want to chase a bit because that's fun. That's, flirty, like being that pursuit, right? That dynamic, especially in dating. But there's a subtle difference between chasing and having neediness, like actually needing that other person. It's fine to chase, but to need that other person, that's where the subtleties come in, and that's where you can start to repel people as opposed to reel them in. Think about that feeling you have, for example, when you have a salesman who's trying to sell you something really, really hard. That feeling you have is it's resentment. It's, get this person away from me. But if they take it away, they do a takeaway, they kind of, take it a little bit away from you, then you're gonna start to lean in more and they're gonna pull you in. That's how a lot of sales get made, and I've made lots of sales in my life. So the universe has an interesting way, like the people who don't need things, they attract more than the people who need those things because they're gonna be so needy and it's gonna be very repulsive. The problem is that a lot of people, they end up having a codependent lifestyle where they're always depending on other things to happen, on other people. So not just dating, but just in other areas of their life as well. They have a dependency on others to get things done or feel complete. And I don't blame most people for feeling that way, because if you listen to music, you listen to all, pop culture, it always talks about finding your other half, finding your soulmate to complete you. And that mindset leads to neediness, the fact that you're not complete by yourself and that you need another person to make you whole. What happens as well when you have this idea of a soulmate out there is you start to imagine what they'd be like, what type of personality would they have, what would they look like, and you have this imaginary person in your head that you're out in the universe trying to find. But the thing is, they're imaginary. Your soulmate is probably not going to be like you imagine in your head. So you start to project things that you imagine in your head onto others, as opposed to actually getting to know that person for who they really are. Instead, you want them to fit into the mold of this idea that you have for your other half or your soulmate. All it really means, if you're willing to let things go or willing to take things away, is you don't really care what this other person thinks of you. That's what that subconsciously communicates, and that's very attractive. Another person's image isn't reliant on other people liking you. It shows that you're not a people pleaser. Always coming from a frame of needing something, you're essentially communicating that you're not complete without that thing, that you're not in a good position without having that one thing, and that shows that you're not a complete person, you're not self-sufficient. A classic example of clinginess and showing neediness is when you have a breakup in a relationship. You'll have one person usually saying that, hey, if only I didn't make that one mistake, things could have worked out because we were perfect for each other. But that's not true. There's a reason why you broke up. So there's a bit of clinginess onto that idea. The reason you think that someone you broke up with is perfect is because you have an imaginary idea of who you wanted them to be, and you thought like, hey, if I could go back in the relationship and we kept it going, I could have fixed them, I could have turned them into this thing that I have inside of my head of what they're supposed to be like. But that's not how it works. You guys are broken up for a reason. So one of the key differences when you're not needy and you're more self-sufficient is you don't communicate that you want something from the other person. And the fact that you don't want something also tells them you don't need anything. You're actually with this other person because you're interested in that person, not because you need them, because there's a stark difference. If you're in a relationship with someone because you need that person to feel complete, you're doing it for selfish reasons to make yourself feel more complete. It's all about me, me, me. Whereas if you already are a complete person, you're self-sufficient, you've got things going on in your life, and then you're with this person but you don't need anything from them, it's like you're actually interested, you're genuinely interested in this person, and that makes it feel much more authentic that you actually are with each other for the right reasons. Oftentimes what happens is we're looking for a relationship to fill in the gaps that we have, the flaws that we have in our personality, but that's not how it works. You can be in that relationship and it can be kind of like a band-aid where you temporarily feel like you've overcome some of your insecurities, some of your problems that you have. But once that relationship is over, all of those insecurities and all the fundamental flaws that you had, they all come creeping back because you never saw them in the first place. All you did is just put on a band-aid to it. Let's say, for example, that you've been wanting to go out with friends, but then you have your partner. They're like, hey, no, we were supposed to go on a date. We have a date schedule now. And then you put the need of your partner ahead of your own once. You call up your friends and tell them, hey, guys, I can't make it today. I've got to go on a date. And the reason you do that is because you want to make your partner happy as opposed to doing what you really want to do for yourself. And that comes from a place of insecurity. It communicates clinginess and actually worrying about the opinion of the other person more than the opinion of yourself. And that's why the letting go energy is so magnetic. Instead of coming from a place of needing things constantly from other people, you come from a place of, hey, I've got my things going on. I'm doing things for myself. And if you want to come along with what I'm doing for myself, cool. If not, that's okay too. That is a much more attractive energy because you're being more authentic to yourself as opposed to projecting and coming in with trauma and everything you've got, going on from your past experiences into the relationship. I've actually got a bit of an exercise that you can do to learn to let go, practice letting go, and I'll share it with you here. So, all right, follow along with me. Let's imagine that person who you imagine a future with, your soulmate, maybe an ex that you can't get over, a person you really loved. Imagine them in your head and say, I'm grateful for having had you in my life. I appreciate you. I love you, but I have to go because I've got things going on in my own life and I am going to be busy. That's an exercise you can do repeatedly to exercise that muscle of letting go. You've got to get used to having something that you feel a deep attachment to and being able to still put it to the side. It's not easy emotionally, but it's what it takes to become a more magnetic person who is able to let things go and be more self-sufficient and not always depend on these ideas that you've got in your head about other people, about needing others to be complete. The bottom line is all the insecurities that you have are all coming from a place of imagination of who this other person is supposed to be, how things are supposed to go, what outcome needs to happen. That's all imaginary. Learning to let go, you come back into reality. You don't know what's gonna happen. Try your best, do what you can on your end, and then whatever happens, happens. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, so what? That's the attitude that's a lot more magnetic. It shows that you're complete and don't have a clinginess to other people and these ideas that you have in your head. Anyway, I hope that was helpful to someone out there. Guys, let's let go of this clinginess of needing other people to feel complete, because you are already a complete person. We don't need a certain outcome. We don't need things to always go our way. We just need to do what we can, show up as best as we can, and then whatever happens, it happens. And that's okay. We're still gonna be fine. We're not gonna have a huge void just because things didn't go the way that we expected. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.